Welcome to the City of Murfreesboro Historic Zoning Commission, our regular meeting of October 20th, 2015. We have a quorum, and I call the meeting to order. Let's take a look at the minutes of the regular meeting from August 18th, 2015. And I'll entertain a motion to approve or edit.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, August 18th, 2015, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Next item of business is a proposal for 208 North Manny Avenue, Jeffra and Tamara Neely. Mr. Lewis, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, Chairman Backlund. The applicants, they purchased 208 North Manny, and they're requesting to do some extensive renovation to the exterior of the house and the garage that's attached. The property is located on the east side of North Manny, about midway between East College Street and East Lytle. It was constructed circa 1945 in the vernacular style of architecture with a gable roof and stone detailing. It's a non-contributing structure in the North Manny Avenue Historic District of the National Register of Historic Places. The property was converted from a single-family dwelling into a three-family dwelling back in the early 80s, and they're wanting to convert it back into a single-family dwelling. So they're proposing some major exterior and some interior modifications to the property. Photographs of the adjacent properties on both sides of 208 North Manny are also included in your agenda materials for comparison. The dwelling on the north side of this property is not located on the East Main Street Historic District, even though it is in the North Manny Avenue National Register of Historic Places. It's not in our local historic district. So this is right at the border. The dwelling on the south side is a triplex, and it is in the historic district, but it is also a non-contributing structure in the local historic district. The modifications that they're proposing they're proposing for the property include removing all the existing aluminum siding and replacing it with hardy board siding. They're going to add 2 dormers to the roof at the front of the house facing North Manny Avenue. They're going to replace the existing roof shingles with architectural shingles. They're closing in the existing garage to be used as an office. They're going to replace the existing garage door with 3 windows. They're going to add 3 windows to the left side of the garage, which is the north side, and they're going to close in the breezeway and roof and making it into a dining room and a bath. And they're going to add heating and air conditioning units. They're going to also replace windows on the front of the house and add awnings to the windows on both sides of the front door. And they're going to add columns and a portico to the front entrance of the house. I have pictures of photographs of the drawings that he submitted and some drawings of the house, or photographs of the house. And I have included in your agenda materials the materials in addition to the paint and the hardy plank and the siding. And I can pass this around also for you to take a look at.
Thank you.
The applicants are in the audience, and they'll be able to answer any questions you may have, and I'll be able to answer them as well.
Okay, thank you. And could the applicants come to the podium, please? All right, anything that you all would care to add to what Robert has said already, or?
I think the only thing that I didn't hear Robert mention is we're going to add an additional 2-car garage behind the existing garage.
Okay. And would it be visible from the street?
A little bit of the roof line you'll be able to see,
Okay.
but mostly not.
Now, how will you get to that garage?
I'm sorry?
How will you get to that garage?
We're having Bill Jakes is granting us a permanent easement through the drive to the house to the right that faces College Street.
Okay, okay.
So would that driveway be from College Street?
No, it'll actually come off of Manny Avenue.
It would come off Manny, and so does Bill own that apartment building next to you?
does.
Okay.
It does.
Okay.
Well, just to clarify, they own the house next to them. The apartment building, I don't think, is owned by Bill.
Yes, it is.
It is
He
also?
bought- Bill actually bought the house we're buying and the apartment building last month.
Oh,
And
okay.
closed on it and agreed to sell us the house,
Yeah.
Okay.
so.
Okay. Members of the commission, any comments, questions?
I'm confused a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the photograph, which I assume is the south side of the house. And is the drawing directly underneath that represent this?
That is what it will look like when everything's done. We're standing that back roof line up to a shed roof to increase the square footage upstairs.
So you're actually raising, you're going to basically add a level to the house.
Well, there's actually an apartment up there currently, but we're going to stand the back of the roof up so that we have more square footage upstairs. So there's like 500 square foot finished through the center of the house right now, and we're going to stand the back roof up, so we'll gain an additional 350 or so square feet.
Are you keeping the exterior stairway?
Yes.
Paul, if you look on a couple of pages later, you see this drawing. It shows how the roof line will change.
Oh, me.
Yeah.
That's the drawing I was looking at.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
So well, look at the photograph above that, and that shows the existing
That's
roof
why,
line.
that was my, I was looking at the photograph and trying to figure out how you're going to get those two windows to the right of the door in there, so you're.
Yeah. Well, I think we have a number of questions to ask about, and if we can kind of look at those in order. The roof is going to change somewhat, the shingles, the siding, the windows, and the front door, along with the addition of the removal of the garage door and replacement with windows. And so you're going to convert the office into, the garage into an office. And so those are a number of the things that would be visible from the street. And we, as a commission, generally deal with those things that we can see from the street. We don't address paint colors. They're not really of any concern to us. Okay. But however, the roofing materials, the siding materials, the window shapes and materials, and the doorway and the materials there, and then the conversion of one building from one purpose to one totally different look, the garage, from one look to another look. So, commissioners, if you would have questions about any of those things, let's kind of take them in order.
Okay, where do you want to start?
Start at the top and work our way down. How about that?
Okay. Okay. I had a question about your line drawing that shows your new roof line that you're going to push out, and it shows your fire escape stairs, that end of it, and it doesn't show any windows on the ground level any longer.
I'm taking those two out. Those two windows that are on the back below the existing staircase
Yes.
will be in what's going to become our master bedroom. And it looks out directly on those brick triplexes there, and we really didn't want that view, so we were taking those two windows out.
Okay, so no windows there. Does anybody else have any questions about that? The south side of the house?
Plan on putting central heat in the area, don't you?
Yes.
So that air conditioner on the south side currently will go away.
Well, the one upstairs is the only one still there. There were also two on the other side. They're already gone. I took them out
Okay.
the other day.
But the other one is, this one's,
The other one will go away as well. And that will just become a window.
yeah.
The window that's hiding behind the stairway, is that staying the same size?
I haven't made up my mind exactly, but very close to the same size.
And the window wells, the basement?
They have to stay there.
Okay. And what kind of materials are you considering for windows?
There'll be vinyl windows. What we're looking at right now, did you bring a picture? We're looking at clear on the bottom with 2 verticals on the top as far as the mullions.
Okay. Have you looked at any other materials for windows?
No, I have not.
Generally,
What's there now, is it aluminum windows now?
No, well, some of them have been replaced. There's vinyl windows across the front right now, and a couple of them on the side have been replaced with vinyl. But we're taking all those out because they're just not in very good shape.
Okay.
and the siding, the hardy plank siding, are you going to go back with the wide clapboards or the narrow? What were they?
Planning on using a 7-inch reveal.
What were they underneath? It says that there's aluminum siding over clapboard siding.
I thought it was aluminum over a clapboard, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's aluminum siding, just from the day one, 1945. That's all that's there.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you suppose it was replaced at one time?
I don't think so. I think
Really?
we actually found a advertisement from back in like 1962 where the house was advertised, and it had it on it at that point.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it was original to the house in 1945. If there had been anything else on it, I think that it would still be underneath the aluminum.
layer underneath.
There's nothing there,
Yeah. Just black tar paper or something?
just boards.
Boards?
Yeah.
And those are, right now, they're, what size are the board, the aluminum?
It's got like an 8-inch reveal
8
on
inch,
it.
and you're
right
going to go
now.
down to 7-inch,
7-inch.
so it'll be a little bit smaller.
Yes.
Okay.
And back to those windows, I don't think I heard you. Are some of them wooden windows, wood-framed windows?
All the windows were originally wood framed, but they have taken them out and replaced with a vinyl insert. All across the front is all vinyl. 2 of them on the side are vinyl. Across the back is still the original wood, but that's nothing to you all, I don't think, as far as the back view.
That's something we always have a quandary over, about
Yeah.
pulling the wooden windows out.
Right. Typically, in a historic district, we would normally not approve vinyl on the side that are visible from the street. And that's in order to maintain the historic nature and character and feeling and associations that wooden windows provide and wooden siding provides. However, in some cases, we've looked at other materials and for siding, hardy board. I think one of the things that we discussed last month about hardy board, and I may not recall this properly, but did we not talk about smooth versus textured hardy board? Have we ever discussed that? I don't recall.
I know we have discussed it.
I don't remember that.
And I think the look was supposed to be a rough look.
I was thinking the opposite.
It's the opposite. I have to go look in minutes.
I can't remember, but I do remember Dan Brown, who gave a seminar to our group last week. He's an authority, historic zoning authority. And he talked about Abatron, which was a way to repair wooden windows.
Yeah, as a material for repairing. If you
Yeah, a material.
couldn't have lost the majority of the window and use it, it was for smaller scale repairs, I believe. But,
Yeah, but the windows that he has on the front are vinyl.
they're existing vinyl.
Right.
And we,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
that's correct.
gotcha.
Then the remaining issue, I guess, would be a couple of things. You're going to add dormers to the roof line, the front roof, and they'll be hardy plank as well.
That's correct.
So the building itself is non-contributing to the National Register. However, we want to keep the character, and of course, the house next to you has dormers in the front roof line as well, right?
Yes, it does.
And then the other bigger change, I think, is the door. If you look at the house next door, and I don't know when that door was installed on Bill's house, or if that has been changed ever or not. And you're going with, I can find it. The columns, which would be sort of a pretty dramatic change from what's existing.
Yes.
Those columns were taken off of a picture off of Tim and Mary White's house in Georgetown. And if you look at the top of them, they're quite ornate. We're not doing that. I was just
Is that what
giving
this
that as
is?
an example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The columns will be just pretty much straight up columns to the top,
Wood, are they wooden?
fiberglass.
I'm sorry?
Fiberglass is what I was planning on.
Because I had a real concern about those columns. I feel like, you know, we talk about a vernacular style home you have, and we don't think about those columns fitting into that kind of a house at all. So I'm very concerned about that. And I had one other thing I'd like to mention about your new door and your column area was that, and I don't know if this was just a quick sketch or not, but you have the peak, because your house is all angles, and,
Yes.
and so you have this peak, but then you're introducing,
A different angle there, yes.
yes. Was there a reason for that, or did you want, or do you intend to keep that
I could
triangle
match
the same?
actual same peak, I guess, but we didn't really want to, but I could if I had to.
Match the same
Match
peak
the
as
same
Yes,
grade
I think that's important.
as what?
as the existing gable that's coming up.
Oh, okay.
You see how those are different on the line drawing?
The intent there was to keep that, all we're trying to do is have just a little bit of protection if it's raining or something when you come to the front door, so that you're not just getting drenched.
Right.
And we were trying to keep that peak from going way up, because that's a rather steep pitch. I haven't checked the pitch on it, but I'd say it's a 12-12 pitch on the existing gable there.
Yes.
And I wasn't quite wanting to go that high, but I can.
Anybody else have any comments? Paul, do you see what I'm talking about?
I do. It could be just be the drawing, but the drawing, it looks to me like what you're proposing is, it has a steeper pitch than what's there now.
I think it's
But
vice versa.
Yeah.
If you look on the shallower pitch on the drawing there is the new. The pitch behind it that's steeper is existing.
Oh, okay.
Well,
That helps.
Yeah.
Jan.
Your columns, I remember you talking to me about it. Are they going to be smaller in size than what we have in the photograph?
The actual picture from Tim and Mary's, yes, because theirs is a much larger house.
Yeah.
And the one over here just can't substantiate that
Do you have
size
any-
column.
Do you have any amount of, can you?
Probably an 8 to 10 inch diameter would be as large as they could go. I haven't chosen that per se.
I think we may be misunderstanding. The door, you're going to leave the existing roof over the door in place and apply this other
Yes.
porch to that.
Yes.
He's going to
Yes,
extend the
exactly.
porch out.
You understand? It's,
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I just thought the angles should be the same, the two angles.
I think that, I don't think that the pitch that's drawn on here for the existing pediment, I don't think that pitch actually matches what it is. I mean, it's
Okay.
fairly, it's a sketch, not a
Yeah.
measured drawing.
Okay,
so-
well, I guess that was my
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, now,
It didn't look right on the drawing to me.
In the photograph that I have on the monitor, it shows the front and the large gable roof for the porch. It looks like it goes almost to the windows. It's real close to where those two windows are. And then if you go down, the windows you're going to put in the front, they're going to be smaller width
They're going to be single. We were going to do casements and actually lower them down so that they're almost on the floor, on the inside
Okay.
of the house, which will give us room to do the canvas awnings above. Because currently, those windows, if you go back to the view of the house, are almost up at the gutter line.
Uh-huh.
And wouldn't give us enough room to do the canvas awning.
Okay.
And the line drawing didn't show handrails. That was my other question.
The handrails are on there, but they're going to have to be shortened up and modified.
But you
because
planned it.
The columns will actually be sitting close to where those handrails go into the stone of the house right now.
I just wanted to be sure you knew you were required to have
Oh,
handrails.
absolutely.
Oh, okay.
And so that stone is staying on the
Stone is
front,
staying.
and you're going to pull that front porch out 4
Actually,
feet.
just the roof line and
Just the
support it
roof.
with the columns there, so you'll have a 18-inch, 2-foot
Covered area.
overhang to kind of stand out and not
Okay.
be standing in the rain.
So it'll come out 18 inches or 2 feet, 24
Yeah.
inches.
And the size of the windows that you're showing in the sketch, are they going to be, you're going to change?
They're going to be 3.0 windows, go to a 3.0 width.
And are they going to be solid glass, or are they going to have the muntins in them? Like the existing, the existing windows
I
have.
defer to the boss on that one.
First of all, we should have clarification when your husband says you're coming to talk to somebody about shutters. Okay. I had no idea we were doing this. This is a picture of the window that we're proposing without the transom above it. There's several options to stay consistent with more of a craftsman style. You can do that, or you can do a prairie type window, which is the crosses across the top and down the sides. I looked all through downtown, and this was one that I really preferred over the others. It's already downtown, just without the transoms, which we would not have.
Without the-
I'm lost.
The casement windows would be solid, is what we're proposing. All the additional windows would have the grids at the top where you have the straight railings, and then there's no glass at the bottom.
Or no grids at the
Or
bottom.
no grids, I'm sorry, at the bottom.
But we're going from, you're going to make, the windows are going to be more narrow in the new design.
Those two front windows on either side, yes.
The only way to put the canopies on them were to decrease the width of them and lower them some so that we could put the canopies on the front. And it was just an architectural attempt to give it a little bit more style from the front and be a little bit more consistent with what it might have been in its heyday.
And then the window to the, when you're facing the front door, the window to the far left, that's going to be a different shape as well, right?
No, it'll just be replaced with a new window, but it'll be the same shape.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Ms. Neely, is this the style of window that will be the 2 new windows on either side of the front door?
No,
The two on each side of the front door, we're proposing to be casement windows.
Okay,
The
got
ones
it.
that are single, that just for that clean. If you look on Mary White's drawing, or the photo of her house, it has the canopies on the top of it, and she has casement windows. So we thought that that would be an easier presentation to make than to try to put those particular grids on a casement window.
So this is an example of,
The addition, every additional
Everywhere else, all
window.
those windows will be that style.
okay.
Those would be the only 2 casements because they'll be the only
is the
2
house
that have the
next door,
canvas over them.
Okay. I think the only thing that I would see is what Ms. Anderson brought up about the pitch of that little roof area, trying to,
So you want the pitch of what we do to match the existing pitch of what's there?
I would think so.
That's an easy
Yeah.
fix.
Yeah, architecturally, the only problem it gave is it's a fairly narrow front porch.
Uh-huh.
So in order to put the columns just right in front of it, it's a fairly steep pitch to match, to make that look consistent, but it's certainly doable.
I mean, and I don't know if it makes it look too squatty or to do what I just asked, but
To go to the same pitch, I don't think it's going to make it look any squattier than
then what
what it does now.
Okay.
And you were talking about the size of the columns. It seems, according to the size of your house, the front of your house, I think the smaller the better.
Right. And-
You got to be careful
I
about
think I'm going to have to go with a minimum of an 8-inch. A 6-inch gets pretty small, in my
I don't know.
opinion. But, that's all it is, just an opinion, so.
I don't know. Does anybody else have any opinions about that? Diameter of the columns?
Well, I think just going as small as you can on it, and I understand the dimension that you're talking about would be, because as it goes up, it's going to get a little bit more narrow probably.
It does, it tapers a little bit
And,
towards the top.
So you'd lose it if it's 6 at the bottom, it'd be 4.5 or
Very
something at the
small
top.
What else?
I'm just going to say what I'm thinking, and that is, I'm a little concerned about this. Especially if I look at the front of the house next door, which if you look at the front of that house, everything balances as it should in that style of architecture. In terms, that's the feeling that you get of East Main Street. And we're basically, what we're doing is we're looking at a wholesale change in the front of this house. I'm concerned that we don't, I think we need to see a measured drawing.
I do too.
I mean, something that's, so that all the dimensions are exact, because I think that's something that I don't feel comfortable making a decision on it one way or the other with the drawing that we have. And I don't think it's, I can't.
I understand what you're saying, Paul, and I think what I think some of us are feeling is that it is a major dramatic change from an architectural style that is described in the narrative, and the window style, the siding style, everything is changing, the roof line, and that sort of runs counter to maintaining the historic character of the street and of the neighborhood. It does borrow some other historic elements from other houses, but I think from a historic preservation point of view, maybe thinking about retaining some of those elements might be a way to go and still be an acceptable remodel for you, where the window style, for example, has the grids, throughout and retains those. That might be one possibility, or to think about a porch that has a cap over it similar to what the neighboring house has, as opposed to a completely different style house on Main Street. And I think that's kind of the sense I'm getting from you, Paul. Is that correct?
Well,
And Linda?
I'm not necessarily, I feel like that the drawing we're looking at is not giving their idea a fair chance. If this is actually what it's going to look like, then I have a problem with it. But as I look at the drawing and look at the photograph, I feel like that if it were an actual measured drawing, where the measurements on what's there and what's proposed are totally correct at a scale that we can see, it might be a different circumstance, but
Well, it appeared to me he was attempting to make his drawing reflect the scale of the photo almost. You know, so you could see it in relation to what's there. Because it's almost to it, but not quite.
Do you think that you could provide us a better scale drawing?
I can have an architect
Fairly
draw it. I was
soon.
just trying to prevent spending $1,500, $2,000 that
Right.
is gone with the wind. So,
And I'm concerned about the windows. I mean, we've just seen that picture. Are those the same kind of windows that you'll put in the new office that was the garage?
Yes, it would be throughout the house, and I have no problem with the existing grid pattern if you prefer that. I had just looked through downtown. I didn't realize so many windows were clear at the bottom without grids, and so I just, opted to have a
we
different
drove
grid
down Main
pattern.
Street, Cherry Lane, Park Circle, everything, looking at the different options, and there's everything out
Right,
there.
right.
That's right.
That particular one was just the one we preferred.
Yeah.
The clear at the bottom with the verticals at the top.
Yes. Well, and I do agree with Paul. I'm concerned about the new windows and the canopies that are being applied to the front of the house. That's just a total different style from anything else about the house. And I have some real reservations about that.
Yeah. Well, maybe you wouldn't have to have an architect do a drawing, but perhaps you could. Another thing I think we might need is some window samples as well, or other materials. Did we have all the other samples? We got the
got the siding and the colors.
and the question about the fiberglass. I mean, I think we've dealt with fiberglass columns before.
Yes.
So those are a couple of questions that we have. I'm guessing that you're.
If it's a matter of a wood column versus a fiberglass, I can order wood. I was just
Yeah.
trying to, no maintenance
Right.
down the road is what I was looking for.
Right. Okay.
I guess what I'm thinking is that this is a wholesale 100% change. The only thing about this existing house that is going to still be there is the stone face. So if this house burned, would we approve a house designed like this to replace it? If this is, I mean, as I said, I think that it may look a little bit better, or at least by going through that process, you might have the opportunity to consider your dimensions and some things about it. I'm just one guy, so I would prefer to see we have the authority to ask for detailed drawings, and considering the extent of the modification to this, and in consideration of the house right beside it, which is true to form,
Yes.
I think we need to see.
Actually,
Something.
that house to the right, if you're not familiar, or to the left, rather, Bill Jake's personal house,
Yeah.
the white to the right of the stone is added on, the white siding to the left is added on. The only thing original to that house was the stone.
David, did you
Yeah,
look like you had something to say?
Well, to confuse it even more, my thoughts, looking at the house as it is today, of course, it's a non-contributing factor to the historic zone. And I don't see anything appealing to the house as it is at this particular point, as it stands. So I don't particularly have a problem with what they want to do with the awning windows and then the dormer windows being different. I don't see that as a problem myself. And I think if we can get those measurements, as Paul said, that might give us a little better feel for the house as they're presenting they want it to be. But even if it's a little bit off, I see the presentation of what the house would look like much better than what it looks like at this particular point, in my opinion. Pardon me?
I like their house.
Well, in part, it's not necessarily just a question of our taste, though. It's also of historic character. It is in the historic district, and as we heard again, as we've heard many times, we heard yesterday during a seminar that, being in a historic district generally increases your property value. Nationwide, that is the case. And so when you retain that character, and one of the reasons for that added value is that there's a degree of stability in what people are going to do to houses. That is, somebody's not going to come into a historic neighborhood and build, a castle or, just alter the whole character of the neighborhood. So that it adds stability and it adds value to the property. And so I think one of the points here is that Linda's making is that that style, it is of a piece. I mean, it was designed, what was the construction year, 1940?
45.
45.
Yes.
Right at the end of World War II, and it's characteristic of that time. It is in the historic district. It's not contributing for some reason, and we don't know that right off the top of our heads why it was considered to be non-contributing. Because if it has not been changed, it certainly...
Probably it wasn't 50 years old back then.
It wasn't 50 years old at the time, and now it's well over. So that's one of the considerations in determining eligibility for the National Register of Historic Places, 50 years old, but obviously that's an arbitrary number. But if it has not been changed in those years, and if we were to reevaluate it now for National Register eligibility, we might well find that it is a contributing structure, just as it looks today, with the exception of whatever changes were made to the windows, at some time in the past. So that stone front is similar to the neighboring house, the windows with the
Actually,
grids
the
in
same
them.
builder
Same
builder
builder,
both.
yeah.
Built both
And I live
houses.
right around the corner, so
Yeah.
I go by your house a couple times a day. So I kind of like it too, actually, but.
Well, and I think another thing that we need to make the Neelys aware of is that we have tried to learn by our mistakes, and sometimes we've maybe been a little bit too casual in seeing, in thinking that a plan or that a sketch was going to turn out to look the way it was presented to us, and it didn't turn out that way, and we have made some mistakes along the way.
Sure.
And we're trying to be more vigilant
Right.
about that.
Thank you. And we are very willing to sit down with you as you formulate your ideas
Yeah.
and make comments, or outside of this sort of forum, and informally just help you understand what we're looking at, and you help us understand what you're looking at. So we would be willing to do that also. So.
Right. Well, time is, for us, of the essence.
Yeah.
We were planning on turning dirt. We close on this property November the 2nd, and I've got a footer guy lined up for November the 3rd.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
we were trying to move as quickly as possible, because we're actually homeless a week from this Friday. So we're having to move into a rental house over on Burton while we rehab this one. But I have no problem getting, I can get Chris Turner or somebody to draw up a front elevation.
I think that'd be good.
To scale, this one is actually to scale, each grid represents 1 foot as far as width-wise, but I
Yeah.
didn't take into consideration the
The-
actual
For example,
pitches
the
on
stone
roof.
facing looks different, and the pitches look different. I may be wrong about the stone facing, it just looks
Well, the
wider
stone
on-
facing, I'm not changing at all. I mean,
Okay.
but it should be 9 foot wide, that's what it measures, I
Yeah,
think.
it just didn't look that,
Okay.
the width on this hand drawn.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, and then,
And maybe we could accommodate them sooner if they need to get moved.
right, and we have had meetings, we don't have to have our meeting on this particular date. We have called special meetings in the past
We have time for that,
Well,
don't you, remember?
And can't
well, in this case.
can it get to
3 weeks.
Robert?
If they can get a drawing in,
Well, just so I'm clear, what is the actual holdup? Is it the front elevation that we're looking at and the window style to be chosen? Is that what we're?
I would say that's my impression, windows and maybe the columns, but I think those are the two big questions. Would
And
you
the-
Well,
agree?
we don't have a window detail. We
Yeah.
don't have a door detail. We don't have a detail of the columns. We don't
Right.
even know how deep it's going to be because we don't have an elevation that would show how far it's going to extend out. I just have a problem
Yeah.
making a decision with.
Well, I had to
when
stay
can't-
on
I
that
can't-
existing porch as far as depth.
Right.
It's not very deep, and because
I
of the
understand-
existing
I
setbacks, I
understand.
can't come any further than,
I understand what it is
Yeah.
that you want to do, and I'm not saying that I'm opposed
right.
to the changes you want to make in the house.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm unwilling to, I mean, I can pass, but I'm unwilling to consider it without what I consider to be adequate information. We would be basically blessing a sketch.
Right.
So I
And
think,
I don't think that's something that we ought to be doing.
so it sounds like what we would like, there's, I think, a consensus here that if we have a better detail on windows, doors, columns, those 3 things in particular, and to, in my view, to consider the existing position and shape and size of height of the windows, and maybe, I'm not sure that those awnings, you got triangular dormers, or angled dormers on the top and rounded windows on the bottom. I'm not sure if they go together, but so that would be something to consider. So those 3 things, though, the windows, door, and columns are the 3 things I think that are causing us the most, giving us the most question.
And
Let me, in looking at the house to the north of you, that front entry, I suspect that if you had that same front entry,
I can't get
You
that
probably
same,
won't-
I
I know,
don't
but
think
I'm-
I can get it because of the style
the
of the
point
house.
was that
Yeah.
it's inviting.
Yeah,
It was done well. And it may be a later addition.
I don't
I
know
mean, I
that.
don't know either, but, if you had that entry, you'd probably not be making any change to that front door, perhaps, because it's got looks like it's got a little recess to it. And It's got the transoms on the side. It opens up the home,
it's a wider porch too, looks like.
It's a wider porch, right, than what he has, so it's just what he's got.
You're
to deal
not
with.
considering changing the porch size, that existing concrete and those same size steps and everything? Okay.
We're using the same foot pattern. It will just be enclosed
Okay.
as to what's there, but the
Okay.
foot pattern will remain the same.
okay.
The
And,
porch will remain the same.
And of course, the windows have been changed out on the front in the past, evidently, because they're now not like the ones on the back. And They gave us an example of the window.
The ones on the back have grids, though.
Right, but I'm saying that we don't know because it was,
Right. I suspect they did have grids because that would have been the style of that time, and the house next door has them.
Yeah, the back windows that are still there, although they're rotten, they are like 4/4, I think.
Yeah.
Good pattern.
Yeah. So, where do we sit?
let me ask you, are those shutters depicted on your sketch?
Yes.
Around the
Can you pull up the
dormer
monitor,
windows?
it shows the,
Around which windows?
The dormer windows and then...
Yeah,
the-
yes, those are shutters. We're going to
Okay. So is there some reason you didn't elect to carry that over to the 2 new side windows?
There's not room.
Not room.
There's even shrinking it down to a single.
Uh-huh.
It was almost right up against the stone on either side. And shrinking it down just barely gave me enough room if I lowered the window to get the dormers on there.
Okay.
But I can't move it in far enough to keep it symmetrical with the inside of the house, if you will.
Okay.
And have enough room to put shutters on it. Also with the dormers, or I mean with the round top awnings we were putting on there, I don't know that wouldn't interfere with each other.
Okay. I just go back to what Mr. Becker said. I kind of agree with his initial statements that don't particularly care for how that front facade, the door like it is, and it just lacks something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the screen door or the type of door or whatever, but
Well, there's a storm door over it that is shorter than the actual door itself now, which makes it look terrible.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the storm door does
Yeah.
change the look completely. So, well,
I mean, I'm pretty comfortable with the materials myself, so.
And, maybe when you're doing the redrawing of this and rethinking some things, I hope you'll go back to looking at all the angles that house has and the nice cozy look of that house. Maybe thinking about some other awnings that also have not as much of a poofy look. I think that might help. I just think it might help the looks of your new front. If you just think about that again too, it'd be great. I don't know. Do we need a motion, Gib, or what?
I think.
Well, before we go on,
Yeah, go ahead.
talking about materials, and because I don't want to tie these folks up any more than we're already going to do at this point, they're going to replace it with vinyl windows, correct?
That was the plan, yes.
And because there's vinyl windows currently in the front, even though we wouldn't normally accept vinyl windows, we were obligated to accept vinyl because they're there currently.
Are you all familiar with Melanie and Davenport and Judy Goldie's house?
Yes.
I actually built that for Melanie, and it will have the Meritech trim around the windows, which will help it give more of the wood look than just a little narrow vinyl trim. So it will be similar trim around our house as what Melanie's is.
Were you finished?
No,
David?
I mean,
Did you have
because,
something else to say?
well, I don't want them to come back with all this drawings and then that's not approved by
I see.
the
Oh,
window.
I see what you see.
You see what I'm saying?
Right,
I want to get
right.
that squared
Oh, no.
away at this particular point.
So,
That's true.
Are you doing away
okay
with
with
these windows in the foundation?
I can't. There's actually living structures down there. You have to have egress windows.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
full basement in that house, a kitchen, 2 bedrooms, a bathroom.
Well,
living room.
there's just not shown on your sketch.
I did not show them
Yeah.
on there, but they're staying just as they are.
So I think we've had a lot of conversation, and I think we need to have a little bit more. And so I would entertain a motion to defer for the moment until we have some better information, and then we will try to act on it, whatever the legal requirements are.
We have to give a reasonable notice,
Okay?
so as soon as we get I think as soon as Robert gets in the drawing, we'll
Okay.
survey people to see when we can get together.
Yeah.
All right.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
unless I missed it, are we going to be willing to accept the vinyl as this?
I think since that's what's there, we are. But we would prefer wood. In a historic district, we would always prefer wood
Okay.
over vinyl.
Well, there's, Dr. Brown mentioned a type of wood with polymer and also a type of wood that was shot with vinegar or something like that.
Yeah, it was a repair material, I believe.
No, not repair,
not
this
the-
was the replacement.
Here.
It's spelled Accoya, Accoya.
Accoya,
Okay, a
correct.
new lumber
Yes.
called Accoya wood.
Are you familiar with that?
I have not heard of it, no.
But he also said that
Ace.
under the law, you can stay with the same non-conforming material.
Right.
Well, I'm just, he's replacing the vinyl because it's obviously deteriorated, right, or it's,
They're just not very good quality
right.
at all, so, and we want everything to
One other option you might want to look in is something that we did on the back of our house. We weren't replacing windows, but we were adding some windows. And it's a material that's a composite made of wood fiber and polymer. It's 60% wood and 40% polymer. It's called Fibrix. And it's got the feel of wood, looks like wood. It's paintable, but it doesn't have deterioration issues like wood itself. So because,
Where
I mean,
where
we
did you
looked
get
at-
those through?
Pardon me?
Where was the supplier for that?
Anderson Renewal.
Anderson, okay.
So you might want to check that in, because we looked into vinyl, and of course, I knew my friends here would not want to approve vinyl to begin with, and there wasn't glass there to begin with, so, but it's one thing you might want to take a look at.
Okay. I guess because we've never obviously dealt with the Historic Society before, with time being pressing for us to get in as soon as possible, what does this do to being able to pull the building permit for the additions out back? Do I have to get the front elevation taken care of before I can turn dirt out back, or?
I wouldn't think so, would it?
I don't know if you can get a partial permit or a permit to do, I mean, it's going to be, what do you call it, a shed dormer in the back? Is that what the back
roof
is?
line will just be what's called shedded out all the way across.
Okay.
It'll just be-
If you pull a permit by itself for just that and not the entire house,
So is the
It's like
garage
an
in,
addition.
is
It's
the
like an
garage
addition.
in contention 2 out back? Because that's where I needed to dig the footer.
is there any problem with the garage is what they're proposing?
I don't think so.
I don't have a problem with the garage or the
Okay. Yeah.
raising of the
You
back.
pull a permit for the garage and the shed dormer in the back, just separate from the rest of the house. It's going to be,
I've never tried to get a partial permit for this.
well,
I don't know that it's really going to be considered a partial permit. I
Yeah.
think what we're trying to do is get the front elevation to appease what you all want and something that will work for us as well. So, I mean, it's not going to affect the actual process of
Right.
building in the back or gutting the interior of the house.
if the commission's okay with the materials and what you're proposing, you can get a permit for that.
Okay.
Now, that's if you're
And then we
proposing
can
a shed
determine
dormer,
windows
the
and that
garage.
thing at a
Yeah,
later.
I think the
You can do
windows
the-
you'd want the windows to be consistent, whatever, in the garage and the house, right?
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah,
we
so
want
whatever
it. I mean,
that decision is when we get to that
But we
would be.
can wait until that point. We can
Right.
go on and pour the footer and get started on the remainder until and then just determine the windows and
Right.
dormers.
I think so.
And the front door. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me
The
try a
front, yeah.
motion then, okay?
I'm sorry.
And let me try a motion, okay, to help the permit get issued, okay? Move to approve the garage. Okay. I would move to approve the change of the rear roof line. And I can't remember the other items that would be.
The 2 dormers on either side.
On the front of the house,
And the 2 dormers on the front.
yeah.
But this is both,
With-
there's to be a new garage as well as a remodel of the existing garage, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so-
Yes, sir.
And you're including both of those in
Yes, sir.
your
Uh-huh.
motion? Okay.
And then to receive a revised drawing for the front part, the remaining front elevation, meeting the area around the doorways, the windows themselves. Does that include the things?
And the columns.
The what now? The columns? Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we-
Oh, yeah, that's be a part of the.
Okay, now,
The other drawing, yeah.
did I
let me ask-
understand?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was just
Did
going to
I
ask a
understand
question.
correctly that Linda would like wood columns on the front? Is that what you're wanting?
Well,
I was trying to think, one of our board members who's not here, who is a historic preservationist, is it fiberglass that he is so averse to? Paul, you
Well,
know.
there are differences in, I mean, columns are made out of sheet metal, they're made out of fiberglass, they're made out of MDF, they're made out of a lot of different things, and I am confident that Jim would be opposed to most of those. There are some composite columns that basically work just like wood, except that they're not subject to rot.
That's something you can bring forward with the drawing.
let me,
Yes.
and let me ask this question too, David, Mr. Ives. Is a motion even necessary at this point for them to,
I think, yeah, I think.
Well, you've got a motion.
This budget, their plan is appropriate in order for them to get their building
okay,
permit.
okay.
That's what I was thinking it would be.
Right.
appropriate for them to pull that.
That's basically what I'm trying to achieve, because I can change all of this along the front or just delay that portion of the reno until we come to it.
He's heading into winter months, so I'm sure that roof is of particular importance to him.
Yes.
And
I'll
that's why I was trying to.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Any discussion? The motion is to approve the renovation of the roof line, the addition of a new garage, and the modification of the old garage, and what we need to see, and add the dormers to the roof of the house, and then what we would need to see is more detail on the facade of the garage, including the windows, and the house, including the windows, columns, and door. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
I have discussion.
Yes.
We're approving new dormers on the front of the house.
Yes.
Based on what?
As is depicted.
Well,
we haven't approved the size or the windows or, so
I
we
mean,
need.
I think
we
that's,
need to more
the dormers themselves are key to what the front
Okay,
elevation is
so
going
you
to
think
look
that should be
like.
left off the,
Well, I mean,
size
I'm
and
not
shape.
opposed to the dormers
Right.
at all.
Okay.
But we need-
I just want us to make sure that, we don't wind up with dormers up there before we
Right.
approve. I don't know what we're approving other than the concept of the dormers, and I don't have a problem with that at all.
The house next door has dormers built at the same time, same
I don't have a
builder.
problem with any of that. I just want to make sure that, I don't want these folks to go cutting holes in the roof and
Right.
And us come back and say, wow, we don't like the size of your holes in your roof.
I don't want you to do that.
We wouldn't have that either.
Yeah. All right, so is the motion good as, or do you want to modify the motion?
I don't,
You'd say
I
keep the
just want to
dormers out
make
of the motion?
sure, Robert, are we, you got a pretty clear understanding of what we're looking for in terms
Size
of,
are the windows up for the dormers?
I haven't actually determined that. If you look at the picture of the house, the front porch, the right side of the roof is not quite as large as the left side of the main part of the roof.
Right.
So it's going to be determined by that right size dormer, and I wanted to get it just wide enough to put a shutter on either side of the window there.
Okay.
So I'm kind of constrained to that space, and was going to make the other one to the left side of the main entrance match that one.
So the dormers and the windows below, they'll be roughly the same width?
Oh, yeah, they will be the
Okay.
same, it will be the same size.
So let's reconsider that motion and amend it as described. That is, remove the dormers from,
Well, there's two ways to go about it, but you'd have to draw a second. I would draw my motion and then correct.
We could probably do it a little less formally than that, but
Okay.
if you're agreeable to having the dormers removed from your motion, and he's agreeable to that, I think we can proceed to that basis, and include the dormers on the new front facade. And
That's how I'll
sounds like you get quite a lot of
amend
work
it.
you can get started on.
Oh, yeah,
I do
absolutely.
want to
We're
make,
not cutting holes for the dormers yet, so it's still let you get started on a lot. If we just
Okay.
hold off the
The-
dormers until we look at the new front.
the dormers conceptually, for purposes of
Right.
his planning for the rest of your upstairs, your house, I don't think we have an issue with the concept of the dormers. It's just the details of the dormers.
I think we've agreed to the
Basically
modification to the
size.
motion.
yeah. And if you look at the house next to you, you notice that the tops of the windows on the ground floor match the top of the door. And they do on your house now as it is. And in the house next to you, the dormers match the windows, and they're directly above the windows below and above the door. So there's a certain level of symmetry that I think is important in how you look at the house. So,
okay.
So the motion, again, is to approve the change of the roof line on the rear of the house, add the new garage, begin modifying the old garage, and then bring us some new information about the windows on the garage, on the front of the house, the dormers, the door, and the columns.
Okay, I don't have your schedule for the next meeting in front of me, the calendar.
Well, if you can do this as fast as you can, get that to Robert, and then he will notify us, and if we will meet whatever legal requirements we need to meet, then we can call a special meeting if we need to.
But our scheduled meeting is the 15th of November.
That might work anyway. I'll try to, I think I can
Yeah.
have it before then, but
Okay.
if we turn dirt on the 3rd and time I get block and concrete poured, it's going to be awful close to the 15th.
Okay.
The
Okay.
middle date for the 15th would be
Actually, we're leaving to go out of town on the 15th.
Yeah,
2
it-
weeks before that, so that's probably about,
Yeah.
because November is a little early, our meeting is a little early because of Thanksgiving week.
Okay.
We won't be here that week.
Okay.
I'll just get it done and turned into Robert prior to, and then they can.
We
look-
wouldn't be here for the meeting unless you wanted to call a special meeting, and we could be at that.
Okay, well, we'll see what we can do.
We wouldn't be there at the scheduled meeting.
Okay.
Need to vote.
We'll be out of town.
Yeah, so at any rate, we have a motion on the table, and I think we need a second.
Second.
We have a second. Any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and we'll look forward to seeing some additional information from you, and also, if you would wish to discuss this, on the side with any of us, and particularly with Robert, we'll give you our best advice. And try to maintain consistency with the standards that we are obligated to uphold, so. Okay.
In order to expedite it, if I put a particular grid pattern in the window, and you don't approve that grid pattern, but I approve whatever you say you'd like to have in there, can we go forth from there, or do you need another meeting to agree to a different grid pattern?
Well, I think we're going to look for the drawing which will show that grid pattern, and we'll talk about it. I mean, let's talk about it before we meet.
Okay.
And that way we can resolve any difficulties before the meeting, and then
Okay.
we'll be all set.
I didn't know if I need to draw it both ways. Okay.
Okay.
Any other discussion here on that? I think we're done. Thank you for
Yes, thank
bringing
you.
that to us.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to you improving the neighborhood.
Yes.
And
Jeff?
next item on the agenda,
Mr. OKR.
Is the approval of the 2016 Historic Zoning Commission calendar
Okay.
with the meeting dates and deadlines. And Mr. Ives pointed out
I
one
gave
little
him the-
glitch.
That's not our meeting.
That would be in March, that it shows that it's on the 4th Tuesday. So we might want to change that to the 1st and the 15th of March, just to be on the 3rd Tuesday of each month.
Say that again?
March,
Sounds good to me.
instead of the 22nd, instead of
Oh,
the
yeah.
22nd, move the
Yes,
meeting to
yes,
the 15th,
gotcha.
and then the deadlines are going to be on the 1st.
And I
Move
just happened to
to,
notice that's the only one that's not on the 3rd Tuesday,
Right.
so if there's a reason for it, great. If there's not, then I guess be consistent.
I move to approve the calendar for 2016 per Mr. Lewis's comment.
I second it.
motion to approve the calendar and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And I believe that's the last thing on our
That's all I have.
agenda. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Don't dawdle now.
We have a motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Okay.